Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ryan Rice. On this episode, I want to go over a custom anchor plate that I made to clear my motor, my Torqeedo in the back, right after this. The items you need to get this done, you're going to need some kind of saw. We're going to use a jigsaw to cut this plastic. We're going to use a sander to, kind of get the edges because they're squared up to get rid of the sharpness. We're going to kind of round those over. And you're going to need a drill to drill at least some 1/4-inch holes into the plastic to mount your plastic to the actual gear track and also mount your anchor wizard to this as well. You're going to need a bunch of miscellaneous 1/4-inch stainless steel hardware. We got some Yak Attack, gear track hardware. We got so much hardware left from all of our items that we purchased through the years that we saved. And you're gonna need an Allen key or a screwdriver, depending on what kind of hardware you use, whether you use a screw or you use like a quick screw like this with an Allen key. You gotta be able to attach your hardware to the plate. Now, you don't necessarily need a cordless sander or a sander that plugs in. You can take a block of wood with a piece of sandpaper, round over these edges to take off the sharpness. You can actually cut this plastic with a hand saw. We're also going to probably use a square to make some lines, and you're gonna need a pencil. We'll get through all that. But this is like just the generic or just the basic tools you need to get this done. This plastic itself, you can see I got it from buyplastic.com. This 1/2-inch 12x12, it's anti-skid on one side and smooth on the other side. So I'm gonna put the anti-skid side down towards the kayak and the smooth side's facing up. But this piece of plastic is like $12. Yes, the shipping was $14 to where I was. So overall, this piece of plastic cost me $26, but it's still gonna be my custom bracket that I wanna use on my kayak, the way I wanna lay it out. It's not pre-done by somebody else. I know there's other brackets out there that I think you can pre-buy to do kind of what I'm doing maybe, or you could have somebody cut it or 3D print it for you. But this video is about what we're gonna do to show you guys how you can do this yourself. Basically DIY anchor wizard mount because of how we wanna set this up. And the reason why we're setting up the anchor wizard off the back, if you watch my other previous videos, is that I need the anchor towards the back of the kayak because I set my kayak up as a tandem setup, and I don't want the anchor running off the front of the bow, even though that's probably the better way to anchor your kayak, so you're anchored like into the wind or anchored into the current. But I need to keep the anchor cord, the anchor itself, away from my 5-year-old who's gonna be sitting in front of my kayak. This is why we are doing this. So let's get into the install and I'll go over it. So I have the anchor wizard on my Nucanoe Unlimited, the anchor wizard itself mounted behind this seat. Even when I move the seat back for the tandem setup on this will still be out of my way because the seat mounts on the lower track here. So I'm gonna keep the anchor wizard here, and this is the track I'm gonna use in the back. And the reason why I can't just put the anchor wizard like I had here before, because it sticks off the back. Let me grab that to show you real quick. So when it sticks off the back, it needs to sit about right there. And obviously now with my Torqeedo, it's going to be, it would be dropping right on the, the propeller, or it's actually going to be in the way of the motor mount itself. So what I need to do is I need to get this anchor wizard kind of sitting like this. So it'll go straight down, it'll be out of the way of the motor, and the anchor itself will clear. So that's why I got this flat plate, because I'm basically going to mount this plate on this, have the anchor wizard sit like this, the end of it. So this is the piece that I gotta basically I gotta get my angle where I want to sit it, trace this, cut this out, and mount this piece to the track, and this way it keeps the anchor itself straight. I think the 1/2-inch plastic it's definitely gonna be durable and rigid enough, especially once I get it mounted really close here and sitting like this. It's really not going to be sticking off this kayak this far, so it's going to have a lot of meat on this, attached to this bracket. I'm probably going to use 3 screws on this, being it is kind of like cantilevering off the kayak. I'm going to probably use 3 mounting points with this piece of plastic on this track, so it has good durability, even though it's only mounted with 2 little screws on the kayak. But it's basically going to sit like this. So we need to make find our angle here and trace this out and make our mount. So I want to make this board the same length as the track itself. So I'm just going to do a mark here on the board with a pencil. We're going to take a square, mark a line, and we're going to cut this with the jigsaw and get it to be the same width as the track. So we're just going to use the tailgate of our truck instead of setting up a whole bunch of sawhorses and stuff, but we got that mark there. So we're going to take this square and just use a pencil on the black. It shows up. You could probably use a Sharpie too, but the pencil works just enough. And we're going to run our jigsaw along this so it's the same. It's where we need to be lengthwise. I just want to make sure I have a square line here, but I'm just going to push this in to see where it clears the handle, because I kind of want it to overhang a little bit just to have a little bit more like more meat facing the kayak when I put the screws in the centerpiece here, so it's just not like at the end and try to pushing it down like this. I want to keep it back so it still clears the handle, because the handle stops here anyway because of our motor mount. So we're going to run this back as far as we can, and we're going to do a center mark line on the track, which this is the clean side. Yeah, we're actually going to run a square mark here, get a straight line along this, and then evenly space 3 holes. I'll probably put ones at the end, maybe like an inch in, one here, and one in the middle, and drill our holes in here so we can get this mounted to the track. And then we're going to place the anchor wizard on here and see what angle, how we want to trace it, and do the final cutout. So now we're just getting a square mark on here. This is where we're going to drill our holes for the screws. We're going to get our drill with a 1/4 inch bit, a tape measure, and evenly space out our holes. Get a measurement to center here. It's about 10 inches, so center would be 5 inches, and the maybe will probably come about maybe an inch, probably an 1.5 inches in on each side. I think will be a good secure mounting point for these. We're going to drill our 3 holes. We want to give a little bit of wiggle room to these holes, not a lot because I don't want it to really shift, but just enough to easily get the 1/4 inch screws through there. All right, let's go get this temporary mount to the kayak so we can trace it out. So we're going to use the 1 inch T-track mounts. Being this is top loaded, we can just lay it in there. And then we're going to line this up with our mount. And you can get these T-track mounts at Yak Attack. They sell them on their website. They have, 1 inch, 1.5 inches, etc. But what we're going to use on this, instead of using track nuts, sorry, we got the garbage man coming across here. But instead of using the thumb screws, we're actually going to use nylon stainless steel 1/4-20 nuts, because once this mounts on here, I'm probably never going to take this off, and the few times I do, I can just take instead of using the thumb screws, I can just take a pair of pliers and get these loose. With our anchor wizard line loose, we're bringing it back, and we're going to see how this sits. It doesn't have to be perfectly squared up with it, but how this sits, how it's going to sit on this and clear and come down. So that looks about good there, and you can see that is pretty much away from this motor mount. I may throw the motor on here just to make sure and verify that this is going to clear where it is, and then we're going to trace this out. We'll probably make a nice cut so it's kind of perpendicular with the kayak, and then follow this line here and give it enough to mount. Obviously, if I got the kayak pulled forward and this line sticking out a little bit and I have this motor turned, I can catch this line and the propeller. So it's just one thing, you'll get used to it. You got to think about it, that you want to keep your motor straight, and really to back off this, I have the motor turned all the way away from this, but even with the current underneath, this line could be sitting freely. To really get off my anchor, I'm probably going to just paddle back to relieve the pressure and get this sucked up before I even put this motor into gear, just to be safe. You don't want to have this, line tangled up in your propeller, and then you got to jump off your kayak to, untangle it to get you, back to where you need to be. So it's good to just get off your anchor with just using your paddle and taking some pressure off the anchor, winding it up before you even engage your motor. That's one little tip for sure. So I think I like this angle. Like I said, I want to keep this mount, pretty much perpendicular with the kayak. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball this and kind of just freehand a line on this where I think it should be. I want to leave a little bit past the actual anchor itself and just kind of eyeball this, and we're going to get a line and cut this. We're going to get these 2 lines lined up that I made the marks of. And we're going to do our final cutout here, and then we're going to get these edges all sanded up here so they're not sharp. now what we're going to do is pretty much permanently mount this to the kayak, but still has the ability to come off real easy. And you can use, you know, whatever hardware you want. You can use, you know, thumb screws if that's what you want to use. But like I said, for us, we're barely ever going to take this off, if at all. So even if we do, we'll just use the, you know, a nut driver to take it off. And that's what we're using to tighten this down. We're using a nut driver. Do not use a ratchet or definitely a tool, because you don't, you know, you don't want to break your track, and you don't have to, you know, really tighten this down. You know, the good thing about nylon nuts is that once you tighten them, they don't come loose. You know, if you get vibration from your motor and stuff, they won't come off. So next thing here I want to do is kind of get this squared up with the, you know, the angle that I cut out here, so I can mark where I actually want to screw and drill this into the plastic. I want to keep it as close to the kayak as I possibly can without I know interfering with the motor. This way it's not really cantilevering off too far and putting a lot of pressure on this. You know, it doesn't take much to bring this up and down when you're in the water. I think I'm going to go with it right there. So I'm going to kind of just get a line, trace out inside here. When you do drill the holes for the anchor wizard, you can see inside here there's a solid piece that slides here. So that comes back to about right here. So you want to keep the holes farther to the back, because any screw heads you put down in here will stop this from fully retracting. So basically you mount it from where that comes up. So basically from this point back is where we can screw. But you got to make sure it's sitting down here. Make sure it's going to clear everything. So basically from here back. So we're going to put one here, and we're going to put one right at the end. So we got two of them that we need to drill right there. And that's going to clear this from, you know, from going all the way up. Make sure when you drill your holes through this plastic that you don't screw down too far, because obviously you'll go through and hit your kayak, which you don't want to do. Sorry, we got the garbage man floating around here with his squeaky brakes. You know, the Anchor Wizard comes with hardware. Obviously, it's not going to work this way, but I had these laying around. These are Allen key. But the main thing is you need to use the smaller washers that come with the Anchor Wizard, because it fits inside this track. And these screws are a little longer than I need, but they're sticking off the bottom. They're not really going to interfere with anything. So we're going to get this and the smaller washer through. And then we are going to use stainless steel 1-inch washer with the 1/4-20 nylon nut on the bottom to tighten this down. Because we're never take this off. If anything, we're going to take this off the kayak. And one thing I'm looking at here is I may change those out to a longer T-slot. Or you can use just the T-slot heads themselves. You know, this part into the track with like a screw that would be perfect size, which would probably be about a 3/4. It would probably just make it. I'm debating. I may change in the thumb screws. I'm not sure, but I kind of like the nylon nuts because it just don't loosen up. So we're gonna get this tightened down with the Allen keys. You know, you can use any 1/4-20 hardware or even bigger, because you're making your own, you know, holes in this to mount this. But we just had these parts and pieces laying around, so that's why we're using them. But you can use any stainless steel. You can use a Phillips head. I mean, you can use any, you know, anything that you have that you want to buy from the local box store. But just make sure you get stainless steel. So I decided that I think I'm going to change these out to a longer T-bolt, T-track bolt, T-track bolt, whatever they're called. And I think I may use thumb screws, those thumb attachments. I mean, they're solid enough for what this has to do from Yak Attack. I think it's just going to make it look more custom and more, you know, almost more like, what's the word I'm looking for, guys? OEM. That's the word I'm looking for, OEM. But you can just use, you know, just the nylon nuts here. Like I said, it's probably the better option. But I'm going to start out with the T-bolt, you know, with the thumb screws. And if it does loosen up, you know, I'm going to pay attention to it over time if I can get this nut out. If it does loosen up over time, I will go back to the nylon nuts. But definitely use nylon stainless steel hardware on your Anchor Wizard part itself here. So we are going to change over to 1.25" track, or T-bolts. Sorry, I keep calling them track bolts. I guess track bolts too is probably what T stands for. And use thumb screws to start. I'm going to do it, you know, I'll keep you guys updated to see if this ever comes loose. Really, just follow me on my social media, like Instagram. That's where you'll see like little updates like that to let you know about things like this. But we're just going to run this through the 3 holes. And you can probably get away with 2, but, you know, I kind of always over try to do everything. So get this lined up on the track where we want it. And now we're going to use the Yak Attack thumb screws. Nice. Whole kayak moves nice and tight, guys. So I think it came out really well, guys. It gives you an OEM look, basically. You know, sanding these edges off gets rid of the sharpness. We use the rougher side facing down. We let it overhang, you know, a little bit more, so it's got a little bit more meat and just not like really cantilevering off of this. And it clears everything really nice. It goes up and down really nice, and it's going to work out very well. And then we just wind it up. So that's about it, guys. It took me literally probably, if I didn't have to do the filming, I could probably have gotten this all done in about 15-20 minutes overall. You know, the main thing is just getting your piece of plastic. I'll leave a link below where I got this plastic from again. The piece of plastic is a 12 by 12 inch. It was $12, but it cost $14 to ship. It is what it is. So overall, for $26, you can make your own mount and make it exactly the way you need it to sit. You know, this is not just for Nucanoe. You can do this on any of your kayaks out there that have track, or you want to modify or anything, or even screw the plastic and through bolt it to your kayak. You can do whatever you want with this. You know, this plastic stock, it's 1/2 inch. I wouldn't go any thinner than 1/2 inch. You can also go thicker if you need to, but I think 1/2 inch overall is sturdy enough. I mean, this whole thing is, you know, basically the whole track is really less moving on this kayak. It's not, you know, like it's not fragile. It's not like loose. It's just this whole hull of the boat, you know, kind of twist with this, just like when I reeled up on the switch here. Sorry if you see sweat coming off my head. I couldn't even use the mic today. The cameras are overheating. It's 100 degrees already down here in South Carolina, and it's been like that. So overall, I like it. It gets the job done. It looks OEM, and I think it looks pretty badass, guys. This flat stock is really fun to play with. That's what a lot of things are made out of, 3D printed out of. You know, you can get plates to mount across the front of your kayak and mount tracks to it. You can get as creative as you want with, you know, a 1/2 inch piece of plastic. It comes in all different sizes, and it's not expensive. You know, the bigger piece you go, it makes it almost, you know, I think one size up from this, an 18 by 18, I think it was only like $18. So it's not expensive, and you can get as creative as you want with this and mount tracks everywhere. So hope you guys like this video. I want to keep this as short as possible. You know me, I'm not very good with short videos. And if you guys have any questions, drop a comment. Let me know if you guys need anything answered. Just let me know in the comments and I'll get back to you. So as always, guys, I really appreciate all of you. I really do. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. So be safe on the water, and I'll see you soon.